Okay, let's just dive right in with something I think everyone has felt. Someone disappearing from your life, just out of nowhere, hurts more than an actual breakup. But before we get into the heart of it, a quick word from our sponsor, Mindgrove. In a world that's constantly demanding our attention, finding a moment of peace can feel like a challenge. Mindgrove is a fantastic app that offers guided meditations, stress relief exercises, and personalized wellness journeys to help you reconnect with yourself. We both use it daily to stay grounded. If you want to give it a try, you can get a 30-day free trial by visiting mindgrove.app/behavior. That's mindgrove.app/behavior. Seriously, it's a game changer. All right, let's get back to it.
It does. It's a unique kind of pain. But here's the thing, Maria, and this is what we're talking about today on the Behavior Code. People rarely disappear suddenly. The truth is, the signs were there. We just didn't know how to read them.
Exactly. It feels like a sudden event, but it's usually the final scene of a movie you didn't realize you were watching. Like, we've all had it happen, right? That friend you used to talk to every single day, and then the replies get shorter, the read receipts get longer.
Or the person you've been dating for 2 months. Everything seems amazing. You're planning things for next month, and then complete radio silence. They just vanish. Poof.
Oh, absolutely. Even with family. That cousin you were super close with, and now you only know what's going on in their life from Instagram posts. There was no fight, no drama, just a slow, confusing fade that ends in an abrupt, silent stop. It leaves you with this awful, quiet confusion. And today, we're pulling back the curtain on that confusion. We're decoding the 7 real psychological reasons why it happens. And trust us, it's almost never what your anxious brain tells you it is.
Right. Let's get into the first big one, which I think is the foundation for so many of the others. Reason number 1, pure emotional overwhelm.
Yes, this is huge. People disappear when they are feeling emotions that they simply cannot regulate. It could be stress from their job, anxiety about the future, depression, anything. And when that happens, their capacity for social connection it shrinks to zero.
And you have to understand this key point. For them, avoidance is their coping mechanism. It is not a reflection of your worth. Their brain is basically telling them, I don't have the energy for this. I can't. Shut it down.
Right. It's not that they don't care about you. It's that they can't even handle the feelings inside their own head. So the idea of managing another person's feelings, even in a simple text message, feels impossible. It's like being asked to run a marathon when you have the flu.
That's a perfect analogy. And so they retreat. They go into a cave. And because they feel shame about not being able to show up, they don't communicate that they need to retreat. They just do it. And you're left on the outside wondering what you did wrong.
When really it was never about you in the first place. Their system was just on overload.
Exactly. And that leads us, actually, to reason number 2, which is related but more specific to your dynamic with them. We call it a nervous system mismatch.
Ooh, this is so fascinating. The idea is that some people feel, and I'm using air quotes here, too activated around you. This doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It could be your intensity, your vulnerability, or the expectations they think you have.
Right? Your energy might just be a lot for their system to handle. And here's the viral takeaway for this point. If someone's nervous system reads you as danger, they will disappear to self-protect.
And danger doesn't mean they think you're a bad person. Danger can mean, this person makes me feel things I'm scared to feel. Like, real intimacy can feel terrifying to someone with an avoidant attachment style.
Totally. Or if they have past trauma, your healthy interest in them might feel like pressure. Your consistency might feel suffocating. Their nervous system is miscalibrated so it perceives a safe connection as a threat.
It's an unconscious biological response. They're not thinking, Maria is too intense for me. Their body is just screaming, run, and so they do. They disappear because being around you feels on a primal level unsafe for them. It's wild.
It's subconscious self-preservation. And it builds directly into reason number 3, which is you trigger their unresolved wounds.
Yeah, this one is tricky because, again, it feels so personal, but often you may unknowingly remind someone of a past hurt, a dynamic with a parent, or a previous failure.
And this is one of my favorite quotes on this topic. People don't leave you. They leave the version of themselves they feel around you.
Wow. Say that again. That's powerful.
People don't leave you. They leave the version of themselves they feel around you. So, if you, in your success and happiness, make them feel insecure about their own lack of progress, they might pull away. Not because they're not happy for you, but because they can't stand the person they feel like in comparison.
So it's not even personal?
It feels incredibly personal, but the root of it isn't about you as a person. It's about the reflection they see in the mirror when they're with you. If the way you communicate reminds them of a critical parent, or if the way you need support makes them feel inadequate like a past partner did, they're not running from you. They're running from that old painful feeling.
And this can happen in perfectly healthy relationships, which is the craziest part. You could be the kindest, most loving person, but if you trigger something they haven't healed, their only known solution might be to flee.
It's a tragic form of self-sabotage, which brings us to a slightly less tragic and maybe more straightforward reason. Reason number 4, they got what they came for.
Ah, yes, the transactional connection. Look, some connections are just that, even if it's unintentional or unconscious on their part. They aren't necessarily malicious, but they are seeking something specific.
Right? And once their emotional or situational need is met, they drift away. There's just no more fuel for the connection.
Think about it. Maybe they were lonely after a breakup and you were a source of comfort and validation.
The classic rebound.
Exactly. Or maybe they were bored and you were a fun distraction. Maybe they needed a connection to feel important or seen. Once they started to feel better about themselves or found a new distraction, the need for you disappeared.
It's the person who only calls you when they have a crisis. You're their emotional support system. But once the crisis is over, you don't hear from them. The transaction is complete. The need has been met.
It's a tough one to swallow because it makes you feel used. But often the other person isn't even aware they're doing it. They're just following their needs.
Which I think is a good segue into reason number 5, a simple, powerful fear of confrontation.
Oh, this is probably the reason for what, like 80% of ghosting in the dating world?
At least. The fact is, many people would rather disappear and be seen as a jerk than have a 5-minute uncomfortable conversation. The anxiety of saying, hey, I'm not feeling this anymore, is just too much for them to bear.
And let's call it what it is. Ghosting is avoidance dressed as self-protection.
Perfectly said. They are protecting themselves from feeling awkward, from potentially hurting you, from having to explain themselves, from seeing your disappointment.
It's like, in their mind, disappearing is actually the kinder option because they don't have to have a conversation that might hurt your feelings. It's a twisted logic.
Right? Or, more accurately, a conversation that will make them feel uncomfortable. Let's be honest. They're prioritizing their own comfort over your sense of closure and respect. Conflict-avoidant people don't see vanishing as an aggressive act. They see it as a passive one, a way out.
And it's not just dating. It's friendships that have run their course. It's family members who don't know how to set up boundaries, so they just disappear instead.
It's a lack of emotional maturity and communication skills, plain and simple. Now, let's talk about something that's less about avoidance and more about evolution. Reason number 6, a massive identity shift.
Yes, people disappear when they're in the middle of fundamentally changing who they are. They get new priorities, a new identity, a new environment, and sometimes you just don't fit into the new version of their life.
This is a big one. And here's the line for this. When someone outgrows a version of themselves, they often outgrow the people attached to it.
That's such a hard truth. Think about someone who gets sober. Their old drinking buddies, they might have to let them go. Not because they don't love them, but because that connection was tied to an identity they are actively trying to shed.
Or someone moves to a new city for a big job. They become this new, ambitious person, and their friendships from their small hometown, they just don't resonate anymore. The conversations feel different. The priorities are misaligned.
And it feels so deeply personal. It feels like a rejection of who you are, but really, it's an affirmation of who they are trying to become. You represent a past they are moving away from.
Yeah, it's a painful but very natural part of human growth. People evolve, and not all relationships are meant to evolve with them, which leads us to the seventh and final reason. And this one might be the hardest to hear.
Uh-oh.
Reason number 7. They never felt fully connected in the first place.
Oof. Yeah, sometimes the connection was simply deeper and more meaningful for you than it was for them. You were building a bridge and they were just enjoying the view from their side of the shore.
And here's the behavioral code for that. People rarely communicate when they're not emotionally invested. They just fade. They don't feel like they owe you an explanation because, in their mind, the connection wasn't deep enough to require one.
This is maybe the hardest one to accept, right?
Oh, totally. Because your reality was completely different from theirs. You felt the bond, you saw the future, you invested the energy. For them, it might have just been nice, casual, temporary. This is the painful truth of emotional asymmetry.
And when they fade, you're left not just with the loss of the person, but with the disorienting feeling that the entire relationship you thought you had might have been a story you were telling yourself.
It's a brutal realization. And that disorientation, that confusion, is a huge part of why these disappearances hurt so damn much. It's not just the loss, it's the lack of an ending.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about that. From a neurological perspective, the brain absolutely hates unfinished stories. It's called the Zeigarnik effect. We remember incomplete tasks and unresolved plots far more than completed ones. A disappearance is the ultimate unfinished story.
And because there's no ending, your mind keeps searching for closure it will never get. It creates these agonizing anxiety loops. What did I do wrong? Was it that one thing I said? If I had just been different, would they have stayed?
It's a cognitive nightmare, and emotionally, it triggers our deepest fears. It feels like rejection because you were cast aside. It feels like abandonment because they left you alone. And it's total confusion because you have no why. It's a triple threat of emotional pain.
The ambiguity is the torture. A clear rejection hurts, but it provides closure. You can process it. A disappearance leaves a wound open, and your brain just keeps poking it, trying to figure out what happened.
So, what's the takeaway here? After going through all these painful reasons, how do we move forward when this happens to us?
I think there are 2 key things to hold on to. 2 viral takeaways to write down and remember. Maria, you take the first one.
Okay, number 1, and this is the most important. People disappearing says more about their emotional capacity and their personal history than it does about your value.
It's about their inability to communicate, their unresolved wounds, their fear. It is a reflection of them.
Exactly. Don't let their exit define your worth.
And the second takeaway is this. When someone leaves suddenly, see it as a redirection, not a verdict.
Oh, I love that. A redirection.
The universe, or fate, or just plain circumstance, has removed someone who was not equipped to be on your journey. Their departure creates an empty space, and that space is now available for someone who has the capacity, the courage, and the alignment to truly be in your life. It's not a judgment on you, it's a clearing of the path.
Their absence is the redirection. That is such a powerful reframe. Wow, what an episode. Thank you all for tuning in to the Behavior Code. This was a heavy one, but hopefully a healing one.
Absolutely. Join us next week as we get into something a little different. We're going to be decoding the surprising psychology of why we love watching true crime documentaries. It's going to be a fascinating one.
Ooh, I can't wait for that one. Until then, take care of yourselves and remember to be kind to your mind. We'll see you next time.